All right, guys, this is Mrs. Lamb, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to calculate GDP. Oops. The basic formula for calculating GDP is X equals C plus I plus E plus G. X is representing GDP, C is for consumer spending, I is for investment made by industry, E is for excess of exports over imports, G is for government spending. Now, don't let this formula overwhelm you. This is just to help you to get a better understanding of GDP. This formula is almost self-explanatory if you take time to think about it. GDP is a measure of all the goods and services produced domestically. Domestically means within our country's borders. Therefore, to calculate the GDP, one only needs to add together the various components of the economy that are a measure of all the goods and services produced. So, this graphic is supposed to represent everything that goes into GDP. So you've got government spending, you've got investment, you have consumer spending, income, which goes to consumers so they can spend. Consumers spend some of their money and they put some of their money into savings, which then goes back into investment. And consumers also, sometimes the money goes out to outside of our nation's borders to other parts of the world. Many of the goods and services are purchased by consumers. So what consumers spend on them, C, is a measure of that component. Consumer spending makes up about 2/3 of GDP. This is the demand side of the economy. The next component is somewhat mysterious quantity of I, or investment made by industry. However, this quantity is mysterious only because investment does not have its ordinary meaning. When calculating the GDP, investment does not mean what we normally think of in the case of individuals. When calculating GDP, investment means the purchases made by industry in new productive facilities, or the process of buying new capital and putting it to use. This includes, for example, buying a new truck, building a new factory, or purchasing new software. So it's when the company puts more money, basically, into the company so that they can produce more. The next component is E, which is the difference between the value of all exports and the value of all imports. Now, first of all, you need to know what exports and imports are. Exports are things that our country makes that we sell to other countries. Imports are things made outside of our country that we bring into the country. So if exports exceeds imports, it adds to the GDP, and it would be a positive number. If not, it subtracts from the GDP, meaning if we export, meaning we create stuff and sell it to countries, if we do more exports than we do imports, then it's going to be a positive number. So X minus M. Thus, even if a nation's people work very hard to produce products for exports, but it still imports more than they export, the nation's GDP will be negatively impacted. This is one of the reasons trade deficits are frequently a political target. Because the balance of trade can be either positive or negative, we can rewrite the equation, showing the components of E using X for exports and M for imports. You may see the formula for the GDP written this way, and it may be easier for you to remember it in this format. Now, don't worry, guys. I don't actually expect you to memorize this. I am simply going over this with you so that you will have a better understanding of GDP. You're not really going to use the formula and make calculations. The final component is G. Government buys, with your tax money, goods and services. G represents government. These purchases are a measure of those goods and services produced. Be aware that many people make the mistake of thinking that the money paid in taxes and spent by the government is lost and therefore subtracts from GDP. Tax money may indeed be spent inefficiently, but this fact has no bearing on the calculation of GDP. So, quiz. Brunei is a small island nation. Its population total is 400, and it has 100 wage earners who earn an average of $50 per year. Guys, this is made up. Each wage earner spends $40 per year buying local goods and services and $2.50 buying imports. The island exports a total of $800 worth of goods. The government tax rate is 10%, and all government money is spent on building infrastructure and supporting schools. There is only one industry, uranium mining, on the island, and it employs every wage earner. The industry spends $600 each year on new mining equipment. What is the GDP? Here's the answer. X equals C plus I plus E plus G, where E equals X minus M. C is 100 times 40, which equals 4,000 in total consumer spending. So if you look back, remember that there's 100 wage earners, okay, and they're earning $50 a year. And then remember the 40 came from how much each wage earner spends buying local goods. So you've got consumers making $100, investment spending, which is $40, which equals 4,000. That's in consumer spending. 600 for I, which is the investment spending. X equals 800 is the total received from exports. M equals 100 times $2.50 equals negative $250 total spent on imports. G equals 0.1 times 100 times $50 equals 500, which is 10% total income for the workers. So the total GDP for this country is $5,650. So again, consumers make $100 a year. They spend $40 of their money on local goods. So that's 4,000 total consumer spending. There is a population of 400 people. Then you have the I for $600 totals in investment spending. And that came from the fact that you had the industry spend $600 each year. And then $800 is received from exports. And if you look back, you will see that it says the island exports a total of $800. And M, which is 100, which is our consumer spending, times $250 is what they spent on $2.50 on imports. So that's money that's negative taken away from the GDP. And then G, which is government spending, is 0.1, 10% of total income for workers, which is times 100 times $50. And that's how we came to the total. Again, don't freak out. I'm not actually going to make you do this. I just really want you to gain an understanding that GDP equals the total value of all goods and services in a country each year. And here is the definition again. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you.